What is good, YouTube? Warstu here with a video on the future of the MCU and also talking about some Sony Spider-Man universe stuff after Craven came out and fell off a massive cliff, an even bigger cliff than Madam Web. There's been a lot of misleading different reports about Sony being done with their universe, Sony resetting their universe, then Sony selling Spider-Man rights off. What the freaking hell's going on? So in this video, we're going to break down a huge report from a very reputable source, which it does change a lot of stuff that we've known about Avengers 5 and Avengers 6, but also it makes a lot of sense. So, yo, what is freaking good, YouTube? Warstu here. If you're on newer animation subscribes, never miss any of the Marvel, DC, Kaiju, Monsterverse, pop culture-based content that we try to deliver on a daily basis. If you could subscribe to the channel, turn notifications on. Let us know down below, what are you most freaking excited for? So much Marvel and DC content coming out in the future. That Superman trailer coming sometime soon. Superman next year. Captain America 4. Thunderbolts. Fantastic Four, so on and so forth. Also, if you could, check us out on Instagram at Warstu to see that beautiful face behind the new voice, and check us out on Twitter, WarstuG. So, Alex Perez has had another interesting Ask Me Anything Discord conversation. So, on the Cosmic Circus, a lot of it is kind of stuff we already know, but there are a few things that is interesting. So, it was asked the question, can you reveal or hint towards the secondary antagonistic on the up-and-coming Avengers film will be? Now, most people already assume it's going to be evil villains versus heroes. So why would you assume there's only going to be Doom and one other villain? I assume there's going to be like 20 different villains in this movie, predominantly. Alex Perez says, it's funny you assume that a movie of this magnitude only has one second antagonistic. What I can tell you is that the second antagonistic, whoever that may be, according to my sources, are going to be there in these movies. A lot more than the characters set to appear in these movies that from Earth 616. Some are going to be good, some are going to be bad, and some are going to be really worse. Now, we know King Thanos is set to return. We know there's a multiple number of villains set to return. So, another question that's kind of interesting. Given that one universe must destroy the other to prevent an incursion, do you see the multiversal war prophesied by He Who Remains in Avengers Doomsday? Alex responds with, that's not how incursions really work, but yeah, the whole idea for these two films, meaning Avengers 5 and 6, is seeing a multiversal war play out on the magnitude that was teased back in Loki Season 1. The thing is, the key players in this war won't be Kang or his variants, but rather than Marvel heroes and villains across the multiverse landscape. So far, pretty much stuff we already know. So then was asked a question about Chris Evans. Now, some people think Chris Evans is going to be Nomad, some people think he's going to be Hydra. It makes no sense for him to be Nomad. It really doesn't. So he responds with, one of the rumors I've heard for these films was that a lot of actors might be pulling double duty when it comes to the characters that portray. Evans could be a prime example of that because he could be playing a number of characters in these up-and-coming films. One of those could be definitely by Steve Rogers from Endgame, who went to live happily ever after with Peggy, who was recently confirmed to also be coming back in Doomsday. Well, confirmed a bit loosely, it's only a trade. The confirmation that she'll be Agent Carter rather than Captain Carter indicates we'll be heading back to that timeline. I've also heard that Evans could be portraying another character in the movie that stands alongside RDJ Doctor Doom, which is interesting. And there's also a rumor floating around the internet that Doctor Doom makes a new 616, as we know, and that's what Spider-Man New Universe is going to be. And Steve Rogers has the Infinity Stones that will possibly be one thing the Avengers have to fight against. Like, that would be cool if the Steve Rogers that went back to return the Infinity Stones didn't actually return them, thus making the Infinity Stones relevant again. It's kind of like RDJ, same mass, same task. I believe RDJ is playing Iron Man, but he's also playing Doctor Doom primarily. And yeah, there are rumors going around that a lot of the legacy characters are playing dual roles because they're going to be on a closed set. And hopefully, it's not like Infinity War and Endgame where they're literally out shooting where you can see. Hopefully, it's behind closed doors so we can theorize and not everything gets leaked. But you cover leaks. Yeah, I know I cover leaks. That doesn't mean I want it ruined. Another question. With RDJ and Chris Evans returning, could this mean that Marvel is relying more on fan service and cameos instead of creating a good story? Perez says this has always been about creating a balance. Marvel adaptations in the media have existed for many decades now, and Kevin Feige is taking the opportunity to honor the legacy of these projects by giving them the opportunity to shine in the next Avengers film. But I wouldn't call it fan service. The way they want to approach it is sort of like how they did Spider-Man No Way Home and Deadpool and Wolverine. The characters that show up in these films wouldn't qualify as cameos. They serve as an actual purpose and role in the actual film. Those legacy appearances are going to be a big chunk of the next couple of Avengers films. And there are going to be a lot of them. Confirmed, everyone returns. We know that everyone predominantly should be in Secret Wars, and some may appear in Doomsday. There's a lot of questions about Chris Evans here. Since it's been reported Chris Evans has returned in Avengers Doomsday, do you know if he's playing Johnny Storm or Captain Hydra? It's looking likely it's going to be the Captain America that went off happily ever after Peg. But I've also heard that the Johnny Storm stuff isn't over. If Hugh Jackman and Toby are back for Doomsday and Secret Wars, what role do you think they play? Probably Wolverine and Spider-Man. A lot of these questions are redundant, but it's interesting when Alex goes over them because Alex knows a lot more than what he actually says. Hey Alex, how many anchor beings do you expect Marvel to use in the next Avenger movies? Depends on the number of universes they're going to converge in the next 2 Avenger movies. But right now, we have at least 4 anchors showing up. That's interesting. So this question here is kind of interesting. Really appreciate what you're doing. You said Doom will be the antagonistic rather than a villain. We'll be trying to save the multiverse in Avengers 5 and 6. Who will be the true big bad? But who's putting the multiverse in danger? Now, this is where it gets really interesting. But at the same time, it's kind of obvious. You got to understand, Multiverse of Madness literally started everything. It's Doom. It's always been Doom. But the theme that I think will resonate here is that in a multiverse of endless possibilities, anything is possible. Nothing is set in stone. Just because something happens consistently in every universe, it doesn't mean that it's bound to happen in yours. The film will focus on who exactly is to blame for the current state of the multiverse. Was it Kang, his variants? Was it someone else? What I'm hearing is that they're going to try and shift the blame to Doctor Strange. Interesting. I've explained it before on my previous articles and Q&A. But the idea is to make Strange the common denominator when it comes to incursions. And a good part of these films is Strange trying to reject the notion that all Strangers are meant to be doomed in the universe by making him the one who chooses to save it. And that follows up with the Multiverse of Madness movie and also makes a lot of sense. Will the multiverse events of No Way Home, Multiverse of Madness be important plot in Avengers Doomsday? I mean, that's kind of redundant. Some of these questions are redundant. 100%. Both of these films introduce the concept incursions, and according to sources, the incursions we saw near the end of No Way Home is the incursion Clea was referring to fixing the end of Multiverse of Madness. Interesting. Alex, beside Eternals, can you tell us which characters that had a important leading role or a single solo project in the saga we shouldn't expect to see in Avengers Doomsday? If you can't mention 1 or 2. I think Moon Knight and the characters from that series will probably fit into category. Werewolf by Night falls into that also. So like I say, some of this stuff is redundant, but some of it's also actually very interesting. This question here is interesting. It says, how important are Thunderbolts, Young Avengers, going to be in Doomsday / Secret Wars? Thunderbolts will be important in Doomsday. The Young Avengers aren't really formed yet, but some of the members, like Cassie Lang, Ironheart, Miss Marvel, American Chavez, Kate Bishop, are going to play a role as well. Franklin has a major role in the Avengers film. That's interesting. Hey, Alex, all these returning Phases RDJ Evans, will newer Phase 4 / Phase 5 characters still be leads in the script? I just don't want to see them shafted to allow for the returning performers to take up the main focus. Everyone will have their opportunity to shine in these movies. Budget's going to be insane. So there's one thing that Russos know how to do is to balance Marvel characters in these types of movies. But to answer your question directly, Shang-Chi, Kate Bishop, American Chavez, Yelena Boloff, Kamala Khan, Monica Rambeau, Riri Williams, The Watcher, and the TVA role to play in these up-and-coming films you can look forward to. Which is interesting, because this does change the game. It basically says that the scale of these movies are way bigger than what people initially predominantly actually thought, but at the same time, it's not really telling us anything that people that follow this kind of content and these kind of YouTube channels already presumed, which I find fascinating. So also in the news, Kraven the Hunter came out and flopped massively due to a lot of things. But what's interesting is a rumor came out recently, but also you got to understand, first it was the Sonyverse is dead. Then it was, now they're focused on Spider-Man 4 and Beyond the Spider-Verse. Then it was the Sonyverse is dead, but they're going to reset it. And now the rumour that's floating around saying Sony had discussions about selling the rights of Spider-Man. Now, Alex Perez says, and yet you guys ask me why I'm not answering the question, because everyone has some version of the truth, but not the whole truth. It's why I wait. I don't really can't see Sony selling the rights to Spider-Man back. It's their biggest selling IP. I really can't see them selling the rights back predominantly, because even with all the flops they've had in their own universe, if you look at all the money they've made from the Spider-Man movies and from the animated movies, they're still in a profit. They're still in a profit even with them losses, because No Way Home, Homecoming, Sony makes most of the money from the box office, whereas Disney makes the money from the toys. So Alex says there is some truth, because My Time to Shine, okay, I don't normally say where it's come from. There is truth to the things My Time to Shine says. You can agree with me or disagree with me, but they have been spot on in the past, and there's no doubt, very least, to listen to what they have to say. Personally, I don't believe the whole Sony is just going to sell the rights off. I really don't believe this, because it's been a whirlwind wide of things that have come out. Oh, they're rebooting their universe after Craven. They're going to do a Sinister Six movie. Then it's, oh wait, actually Sony's considering selling it. Maybe they are. Maybe Sony's had enough. But Sony knows they make most of the money from the Spider-Man movies in the MCU. And the animated Spider-Man movies pretty much make money. It's just these standalone movies they made without the version of Spider-Man. And according to information going around, it's because the first Venom movie did so well without Spider-Man, why they never used the Spider-Man. But apparently there was actually nothing stopping Tom Holland from appearing. Yeah, one factor that most people haven't even bothered to consider is, it's how much Tom Holland would charge for the appearance. I don't necessarily think it's they didn't want a Spider-Man in their universe. I think it's because of how much Tom Holland would charge, because he only has appearances in the MCU. On his contract, he doesn't have appearances in the Sonyverse. So the reason why a version of Spider-Man or Tom Holland's Spider-Man hasn't appeared in their movies is predominantly, most likely, because of how much Tom Holland would charge. Now, would it be better if Marvel owned the rights to Spider-Man? I honestly don't think it would be. They've not exactly been limited at all, really. If you look at all the Spider-Man villains they've had access to, I don't really think they've been limited to. Sure, they haven't had Venom, but I'm pretty sure if Kevin wanted Venom in the Spider-Man movie, that could have already happened. So there is misleading reports, because it's always been Kevin asked Sony not to include a Spider-Man, but the reports are saying, well, Sony just didn't want to include Spider-Man. So you never know what to think. But if Sony are going to sell the rights to Spider-Man, let's freaking hope that, although this is technically different, that PlayStation hold the rights to the gameverse of Spider-Man, because let's be honest, Spider-Man video game is the best video games there are when it comes to superhero video games in that kind of field. So like always, guys, let us know, what do you think?